So, I once made a video on how to write poetry. I guess now it's time for the other side of the medal. How to read poetry. I have 4 points to make. So let's just get through them. First, you need to recognize that every poem has its targeted audience. And that might not be you. Meaning that the way you understand the poem and the way the targeted audience will understand it might differ. Maybe slightly, maybe greatly. What you can do is try and put yourself in the shoes of the targeted audience. Let's take one of my favorite poems, Invictus by William Ernest Henley, as an example. That poem was written by a man who was in a lot of physical pain. And that poem was kind of a mantra for him, a way to encourage himself and remind himself that he is still in control of his own life, no matter the pain. Which, as someone with a chronic injury, I can relate to perfectly. Now, someone who is not in constant pain might also relate to this poem in different ways. Maybe they had financial struggles. Maybe they lost a loved one. So while they were not the targeted audience, they can understand the struggle of some kind. Other poems are far more niche and are written for a lot smaller group of people. I always say that I write for myself only, and if other people enjoy my stuff, that is awesome. But my core audience is myself. So yeah, a poem might not be aimed at you. Don't mean you shouldn't read it. Don't mean you won't understand it. But you need to accept that you might understand it in a different way than somebody else will. That's part of the beauty of reading poetry. You get to interpret it through your own experience. My second point is that sometimes the vibe, the feeling of the poem is much more important than the meaning. Or the emotion itself is the meaning. Example, Boots by Rudyard Kipling. I've just recently heard this poem in the trailer for 28 Years Later. God damn. That thing is haunting. Beautifully haunting. Sometimes it's the meaning that is the centerpiece, from which the emotion stems as well. First They Came is a good example of that. Another thing, which leads me to point 3, First They Came is a fantastic example how a good poem is easy to understand for its core audience. Martin Niemöller made a masterpiece. He summed up the entire rise of the Nazi Party in that one poem, and why it was allowed to happen by the German people. And he aimed that poem towards everybody, which, as you can imagine, can be hard to write a poem that pretty much anybody can understand. Yet he did it in very simple language with very simple words. Masterpiece. And finally, I'm going to say something controversial, I'm going to say something that is going to make me the number one enemy of any literature teacher that ever lived, currently lives, or will ever live. Poems are not riddles to be solved. You do not have to analyze them under a microscope to understand or enjoy them. Poems are events and feelings to be experienced. So, when you take a poem to read, first thing you need to do is accept that you might not understand it. And you don't need to spend a week deciphering it. I do recommend reading a poem multiple times because it is useful, you always miss something, but not even I do that all the time. So I do not expect anybody else to do so. And that's pretty much it, my short little explanation on how to read poetry. Hope you find it useful. And bye!